You don't need anyone, really. Yes, my friend. Although it sounds like a heresy in this world obsessed with social media, external validation, and the fear of loneliness, there's a profound truth to be found. You are enough. Yes, you, with your virtues, your flaws, and even those doubts that keep you up at night. You don't need a partner to complete you, a friend to cheer you up, or an Instagram guru to tell you how to live. Everything you need to be happy you already have inside of you. The trick is to learn how to be your own best company. I warn you, this path won't be easy, but it will be worth it. In this video, I will teach you 10 essential lessons to help you release the burden of depending on others and, in the process, become your own greatest ally. Because when you learn this, believe me, you won't need anyone. Are you brave enough to take the first step? Then don't miss the final lesson, because it will leave you speechless. But before we begin, listen to this story that will help you better understand the wisdom contained in this material. Once upon a time, there was a man named Arthur who worked as a mechanic in a small workshop in his city. Arthur was known for his skill with tools, but also for depending on others to make important decisions in his life. He always asked for advice from his friends and family before taking any step, big or small. One day, the owner of the workshop gave him a difficult task: to repair a classic car that had been up for years. Arthur, used to asking for help, tried to call his most experienced colleague, but got no answer. He then looked for videos, manuals, and advice, but nothing seemed to solve the problem. Finally, frustrated and feeling alone, he sat in front of the car and said to himself, "What would you do if there was no one else to turn to?" This is how he began to observe every piece of the vehicle in detail. He remembered the lessons he had learned in the past and began to experiment with solutions. Little by little, with patience and effort, Arthur managed to identify the faults and repair them. He spent hours working, making mistakes, but learning from them. Finally, the car's engine roared like new. When he delivered the vehicle to the owner, the owner was amazed and said, "I thought you would need help to fix it, but you did it alone. How did you do it?" Arthur smiled and replied, "I realize that the best advice I can receive is the one that comes from myself." When you trust in your own ability to solve problems, you discover that you have more tools than you ever imagined. The lesson of this story is that in life, learning to trust in yourself and your ability to face challenges is the secret to being truly independent. It's not about not needing anyone, but about knowing that when all else fails, you can always count on yourself. Before we begin with the first lesson, if you find these videos useful, I encourage you to subscribe and turn on notifications to stay informed about the latest insights. Let's begin. Point 1. Learn to be your own best company. Have you ever felt that you need someone to feel complete? The typical story: if I had more friends, if my partner were more understanding, if I had the perfect job, my life would be so much better. But what if I told you that the real key to happiness is not outside of you, but inside? Yes, it sounds a bit like cheap self-help talk, but let me explain. True emotional independence, the kind that doesn't depend on anyone or anything, is a superpower that we can all develop. You spend your life looking for someone to complete you, and the only person you need to feel whole and happy is yourself. I know it's not easy, but I promise you that if you put your mind to it, you can build a relationship with yourself so strong that not even the best friend in the world can offer you what you already give yourself. And I'm not talking about a superficial relationship where you look in the mirror and say, "I'm so handsome." I'm talking about a deep connection that goes beyond your achievements, your failures, or what others think of you. This is a central part of philosophical self-sufficiency. It doesn't mean you become an antisocial hermit who locks themselves in a bubble, but it does imply that when things don't go your way, you can maintain your peace without falling into chaos. It's like when you fall off your bike and instead of crying about the scrape, you learn to get up with a smile and keep pedaling. That ability to recover quickly and not let anything or anyone destabilize you is a skill that is cultivated, and the key is to learn to enjoy your own company. Imagine you are a plant. If you constantly depend on the rain or on people, you can go through long periods without water and as a result, wither. But if you learn to draw water from the ground, to adapt, and to be self-sufficient, then it doesn't matter whether it rains or not, you stay firm, growing in any circumstance. That is true inner strength. It's not that you don't need others. It's that you no longer depend on their approval or presence to feel complete. How do you achieve this? Start by making peace with your solitude. Take advantage of those moments when you don't have anyone by your side to get to know yourself better. What do you like to do when no one is watching? What are you passionate about? The wisdom of introspection is a tool for finding inner peace. And yes, although it sounds like a typical motivational movie phrase, when you learn to be happy with yourself, everything else will fall into place. It's not a matter of magic. It's about practicing the art of being sufficient for yourself. Ultimately, the great lesson here is that true peace and happiness come from your ability to be sufficient for yourself. When you learn to be your own best companion, when you stop looking outside for what you already have within, you will realize that you never actually needed anyone to feel complete. This doesn't mean you won't enjoy the company of others, but that you won't live your life according to them. Emotional independence is a gift you can give yourself, and although it's not achieved overnight, with practice and patience, you will be able to live a full life without depending on external factors. As the philosopher Epictetus said, "He who depends on no one becomes master of himself." 2. Learn to say no. Have you ever felt like everyone is walking all over you? As if you were a doormat at the front door waiting for everyone to leave their problems on you? Of course, I'm sure you've experienced it. But you know what? It's not necessary that you continue to be that person everyone turns to without asking. The key to avoiding it lies in an art as simple as it is powerful. Learning to say no. This philosophy teaches us something very simple but essential. Not everything is in our hands, but what is in our hands is our ability to decide what to let in and what not. Imagine you are a wall. Yes, I know it makes you think of those boring places where you can't do anything. But listen, the wall is there, impenetrable, and in the long run everything you try to contain within it becomes a burden. You can't let everyone in. You have to be selective. Now imagine that instead of a wall, you are a border. Borders are defined, clear, and precise. They allow the passage of what should pass, but they protect what should be kept out. It is not necessary to isolate yourself from the world or become a solitary fortress, but you do need to establish boundaries. That is not only healthy but essential for your well-being. Saying no isn't easy. People ask you with the best intentions, but that doesn't mean you have to fulfill every request. We've been taught to be pleasant, to be the person others think of first when they need something. But you cannot be everything to everyone. And here's the truth that no one tells you. You don't need anyone in your life. When you learn to set serious boundaries, you won't make yourself less loved or more alone by saying no. On the contrary, the respect you gain for yourself and the clarity in your relationships will grow like a well-cared-for plant. First, ask yourself a question every time someone asks you for something. Is this really important to me? If the answer is no, you don't have to do it. Remember that saying no doesn't mean rejecting the person, but simply rejecting what they are asking of you at that moment. You are not responsible for satisfying the expectations of others at the expense of your mental peace. It's also useful to be clear. Don't make complicated excuses, just be direct. I can't do it right now, or that's not something I can commit to doing is more than enough. You don't need to justify yourself. People will respect your sincerity more than any well-crafted excuse. At the end of the day, only you decide who can cross your borders and who stays outside. It's not about becoming inaccessible, but about protecting what really matters: your time, energy, and mental peace. This philosophy understood this perfectly. Living with purpose and without the external pressures that others impose on us is an act of courage. So start practicing the art of saying no today. And if someone criticizes you, remember that a wall does not change shape because of external comments, but a border knows where to position itself. As the philosopher Seneca said, freedom begins when you learn to set boundaries without feeling guilty. 3. The power of self-worth. Have you noticed how fragile we become when we let ourselves be swayed by what others think of us? A comment here, a look there, and we're already questioning everything. It's as if your self-worth were a house of cards, and a gust of wind could knock it down. If you want to stop being that house, it's time to build a self-worth that doesn't falter with the opinions of others. And you know what? The ancient philosophers already gave us the key to achieving this. We don't need anyone to feel complete. Imagine you are standing in front of a mirror, not a common mirror, but a magical one that reflects not only your image but also your thoughts. Do you see yourself as you really are, or as you would like others to see you? It's curious how our self-worth has become a distorted reflection of external expectations. The gaze of others, their judgments, and social media constantly tell us if we are good enough or not. And of course, it's difficult to stay calm when the whole world seems to have something to say about you. But what if I told you that true confidence has nothing to do with what others think? The philosophers knew this. Instead of clinging to the opinions of others as if they were the water of life, they cultivated something much more solid: self-sufficiency, or the ability to be enough for oneself. To have an unshakable self-worth, you need to understand something basic but profound. You don't depend on anyone to feel good about yourself. Let's build this step by step. First, it is essential to accept your imperfection. No one is perfect, and if you ever think you can reach that goal, you're probably deceiving yourself. The wise knew this well. It's not about being perfect, but about being wise in how we manage our emotions and reactions. Perfection is a fantasy. Authenticity, on the other hand, is the true key. Second, stop the search for external validation. It's like looking for love in the wrong place. If you constantly seek the approval of others, you will always be on a hamster wheel, running without getting anywhere. The ancient masters practiced indifference to criticism because they knew that the only thing that mattered was their own evaluation. If they criticize you, simply observe and let those words slide, like water over a stone. Another essential step is to practice gratitude for yourself. If you are not able to recognize your achievements, big or small, no one else will. Give yourself space to thank yourself, to celebrate your progress, even if it seems minuscule. Every step forward is a victory. This philosophy emphasizes the importance of daily reflection as a kind of personal balance sheet, where you are the main judge of your achievements. Finally, you must be your own support. Instead of looking for others to lift you up, start being the person who lifts themselves up. Self-compassion does not mean self-indulgence, but understanding that we all have low moments, but we are capable of getting out of them without the need for anyone else to do it for us. When you achieve emotional independence, you realize that you don't need the constant approval of others. Unbreakable self-worth is not based on what others say about you, but on what you say to yourself. Learning to live without the constant need for external validation will allow you to be freer, stronger, and above all, more authentic. If you stop looking outside for what you can only find within, you'll discover that you are more than enough, just as you are. As the philosopher Marcus Aurelius told us in his Meditations, when you stop looking for what only you can give yourself and others, that's when you really start to be free. 4. When silence becomes your best counselor, have you ever felt surrounded by noise but with such a deep sense of emptiness that you wonder if you're really living? I'm not just referring to the deafening noise of the city or the constant hum of phone notifications. I'm talking about that internal noise, the one that drives you to think you need more people, more opinions, more external noises to validate you. But what if I told you that the only thing you need is right in front of you, in that uncomfortable space you try to avoid? Silence. Silence in its purest form is often seen as a threat. It is the space where we confront our own company and, like a mirror, it reflects who we really are. It can be terrifying to be alone with your thoughts, but it is precisely in this moment that clarity begins to appear. Because when the noise fades, that's when we really hear what we need to hear. What belongs to us, what really matters. The philosophers, with their practical approach, teach us that inner peace does not depend on what happens outside of us. We don't need the constant support of others or an avalanche of words to feel validated. They understood that true strength comes from within, from the ability to find serenity and meaning even when the world seems to be out of control. Instead of clinging to what we cannot control, they learn to embrace silence and solitude as powerful tools for introspection and personal growth. Perhaps you haven't realized it, but every time you find a moment of genuine silence, you are opening the door to a world of possibilities. Imagine for a moment that you are alone in an empty room. There are no distractions, no obligations, just you, your thoughts, and the space around you. At first, it may feel uncomfortable, even empty, but if you have the patience to stay there, you will discover that silence has something to offer you. This space, although initially terrifying, allows you to question your own thoughts, emotions, and desires. You can begin to analyze why you depend so much on external validation. Why do you seek answers outside of yourself? The truth is that when you learn to listen to your own silence, you realize that you don't need anyone to find the answers you seek. It is in solitude that you truly discover who you are and what you need to be happy. This is the power of silence. It doesn't force you to be someone else. It simply allows you to be yourself. Now, it's not about you stopping interacting with others or becoming a hermit. The key is to find a balance. Learning to be alone and in silence teaches you to be less dependent on the opinions of others, to trust your intuition, and above all, to find peace within yourself. It's like learning to swim in a calm ocean. No matter how strong the storm is on the shore, you are safe in your own space. No one can take that peace from you if you know how to cultivate it from within. If you find it difficult to take that first step, start with small moments of silence in your daily life. Maybe a few minutes without music, without phones, without conversations, just you and your thoughts. Brief as they may be, those moments will teach you that you don't need the constant company of others to feel complete. In short, the peace and clarity you seek are not outside, nor in the constant need to be validated by others. They are inside you, waiting to be discovered in the silence. It is not an easy or immediate process, but it is undoubtedly the path to a more fulfilling and authentic life. Learn to value solitude and silence, and you will see how the noise of the world becomes irrelevant. As a wise saying teaches us, true freedom begins when you learn to listen to what silence has to say to you. 7. Freedom isn't free. Have you ever thought about what it really means to be free? Not the freedom to do whatever you want, like jumping out of a plane or eating pizza at 3 a.m., though. To be honest, that sounds pretty tempting. I'm talking about real freedom. The kind that allows you to walk through life without a boss, a lender, or a credit card holding you back. That's the freedom that financial autonomy gives you. And as you know, freedom isn't free. It sounds simple, right? If you want to be independent, you just have to earn money and stop spending more than you have. The problem is, we're not talking about a video game where you can restart the level every time you fail. In real life, taking control of your personal finances is more like learning to ride a bicycle. At first, you fall, you scrape your knees, and you doubt if it's really worth it. But in the end, if you manage to master it, you can go wherever you want without depending on anyone else. First, you have to understand that financial freedom doesn't just happen. It's not a gift someone gives you in a cardboard box. The truth is that everyone who has achieved financial autonomy has made a huge effort to free themselves from the chains of money. There are no shortcuts, and it's not just about earning more. It's about managing what you have. This is where philosophical wisdom comes in, accepting that things are not always easy, but that the key is in how we react to difficulties. The ancient masters understood that in life, control over what we can control is the true source of freedom. And you, my friend, can control your finances. Create a realistic budget. Yes, I know it sounds boring, but imagine your life as a game of chess and your budget is your plan of attack. Without it, you're just moving pieces at random. Knowing exactly how much comes in and how much goes out is the first step to making your money work for you. Not the other way around. Eliminate debts as if they were plagues. It's incredible how debts creep into our lives without us realizing it and end up becoming the worst of tenants. They always stay longer than they should. Do everything you can to get rid of them, just as you would eliminate a parasite. Invest in your future. Financial independence is not achieved just by saving. You have to make your money work for you, not the other way around. This doesn't mean you should start buying stocks without knowing what you're doing. You'll have to educate yourself a little, but over time you'll realize that if you do it right, your money can grow like a well-watered plant. Be aware of your expenses. There is nothing sadder than living on autopilot and spending on unnecessary things. If you learn to say no to those impulsive purchases, you will be taking great steps towards your financial autonomy. Remember, what is not seen is not spent. Being free doesn't mean having a ton of money saved under the mattress. Being free is having control of your finances, not depending on anyone to stay afloat. And most importantly, having the power to make decisions without fear of the economic consequences. Financial autonomy is not something you are given. It is a choice. A path that you must build step by step with dedication, sacrifice, and a lot of discipline. Freedom in its purest form is not bought or sold. It is conquered. Burn this into your mind, my friend. True freedom is not achieved with what you possess, but with what you know how to manage. 8. Your happiness is not in anyone's hands, but your own. It's curious how, almost without realizing it, we tend to hand over the keys to our happiness to others. We do it with the hope that if someone else takes care of our emotions, everything will be simpler. It's as if we think that if we have the right person, everything will fall into place. But what if I told you that your happiness has nothing to do with others, that you are actually the sole owner of that precious treasure called happiness? Does it sound strange? Keep reading. You'll understand. The truth is that no matter how hard we try, no one else has control over our emotions. And what happens if that person you expect to make you happy decides not to? Or even worse, what happens if you become someone who constantly needs the approval of others to feel good? Happiness, that thing we all seek, does not depend on others. Accepting this can be incredibly liberating. Philosophers, for example, teach us that the only thing we truly have control over is our own mind and our reactions. The rest, no matter how much we want to, escapes our grasp. It's true that we all meet people who make us feel good or bad, but that doesn't mean they are responsible for our happiness. It's as if we were trying to build a house on sand. No matter how many times we decorate the exterior, the foundation will always be unstable if we don't have control over our own lives. It's a sad truth, but the sooner you accept it, the more at peace you will live. So how can you change this mindset? First, start by stopping the search for external validation. Stop needing someone to tell you that you are enough, that you are valuable. If you are not able to see yourself that way on your own, you never will be, regardless of what others think of you. Imagine your happiness is like a garden. If you depend on others to plant the flowers for you, you will never see a garden bloom. You have the seed, and the way you care for it will determine whether that garden grows or withers. But of course, knowing that happiness is in your hands doesn't mean it's easy to achieve. To cultivate that inner peace, you need to do deep and constant work. Stop putting the responsibility for your well-being in the hands of others. That's one step, but the next is much more challenging. Learning to be okay with yourself without depending on external factors. You may not have control over what happens around you, but you do have control over how you react to it. It's not about avoiding difficulties, but about learning to navigate through them with the serenity that comes from knowing that everything passes, and you will still be there, firm and strong. So the next time you feel trapped by the opinion of others or by circumstances, remember that you are the only one who has the power to decide how to live your life. Happiness is not something that comes to you from the outside. It is something that is built from within. If you learn to be happy for yourself, you won't need anyone else to feel complete. Because in the end, if you don't learn to be happy for yourself, who will? Nobody. Let me be perfectly clear, my friend. Happiness is not found in others, but in how you choose to see the world. 9. Strength in adversity. Have you ever felt like the whole world is falling on top of you? Problems seem to multiply like rabbits, and you, a mere human, don't even know where to begin. And then you think, who can save me from all this? Well, let me tell you something. You don't need anyone to deal with life's difficulties. The only thing you need is to learn how to be resilient. This philosophical approach isn't a collection of strange ideas that only serve to make you look wise. Rather, It's a manual for emotional survival that teaches you to be strong in the most difficult moments. Instead of waiting for someone to come and rescue you, it trains you to be the hero of your own story, no matter how dark the plot gets. And believe me, there are many people who live waiting for fate or someone to lend them a hand, but that's not how it works. Learning to navigate life with calm and resilience is what will make you truly strong. The ancient philosophers, who lived in an era full of chaos and war, were clear about something. Nothing outside of you can bring you down, only what you allow to affect you. And the key to their power lies in what you control and what you don't. What you control are your thoughts and your reactions. What you don't control are others, the weather, or that unexpected call from your boss asking for something you hadn't planned for. But what you can control is how you decide to face it. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not telling you to become an emotionless robot. What this philosophy proposes is that instead of letting yourself be dragged by the emotional tide, you learn to swim against the current. It's like when you fall into a mud puddle and, instead of screaming, you get up with the serenity of someone who knows that the mud is only temporary. Calmness is not the absence of emotions, but the ability to not let emotions control you. One technique you can apply is negative visualization. It sounds strange, I know, but it's very simple. Imagine the worst that could happen in any situation that causes you anxiety. Now observe how that possibility doesn't destroy you. You see? The worst is not so terrifying when you analyze it calmly. This exercise prepares you for what may come and allows you to face any challenge with a much stronger and more serene attitude. Another valuable piece of advice is to remember that we don't need anyone to feel complete. Yes, you read that right. We're not saying you shouldn't love your friends or value the support of those close to you. But emotional dependence on others is an obstacle. Deep down, when you learn to manage on your own, to be at peace with yourself, you realize that you don't need anyone else to be your anchor. True strength comes from within. And when you learn to be strong from within, you realize that you can face any storm without losing your composure. Nobody is going to save you, but you can save yourself, and that's a priceless lesson. Life will continue to bring you challenges. That's inevitable. But the way you face them is what really defines your story. So stop waiting for circumstances to change so that you can be well. Take the reins of your life. Face what comes with calm. And remember that true strength lies in your ability to not depend on others to be happy and strong. As they say, true peace is not found in the absence of problems, but in the way we choose to face them. 10. When you learn to be everything you need, have you ever stopped to think that you don't need anything or anyone to be happy? It sounds strange, right? In a world where everyone seems to be looking for something or someone to feel complete, the idea that you are already everything you need can sound a bit, shall we say, disconnected from reality. But stick with me for a moment, because this is where things get interesting. When you learn to be everything you need, life changes in a way you can't imagine. The first thing you need to understand is that the idea of depending on others for happiness is not just a myth, it's a mistake. Yes, of course, it's good to surround yourself with people who love you and support you. But if your well-being depends solely on others, you will never be completely in control of your own life. It's as if your happiness were a charger, and you depended on someone else to plug it in every time your battery runs out. But what would happen if you could be your own charger? What would happen if you could find that strength within yourself without anyone else having to turn it on for you? That's where self-knowledge comes in. Knowing yourself is not an easy or quick task. No, it's not a 5-minute introspection and you're done, as if it were a recipe. It's a long process, the kind that can be annoying, uncomfortable, and sometimes make you question everything you thought you knew about yourself. But the reward is enormous. When you understand yourself deeply, you realize that you don't need the constant validation of others. You don't need their approval, their love, or their attention to feel good. The key is to be independent, not in the sense of rejecting others, but in the sense of learning to live with fullness without having to depend on external factors to define your worth. This philosophy knew this well. It teaches that we cannot control what happens around us, but we can control our response to it. True freedom lies in not needing anything outside of ourselves to feel complete. I know this may sound like something out of a cheap self-help book, but if you really think about it, it's quite logical. If you base your happiness on people or circumstances, you will always be on an emotional roller coaster. But if you decide to take control of your own life, it doesn't matter what happens around you, because you are already everything you need. So how do we get to this point? Learn to let go of what you can't control. The opinions of others, malicious comments, external expectations, they are not yours. They don't belong to you. Stop carrying all that. Make a conscious effort to know yourself. Ask yourself deep, difficult, even uncomfortable questions. What do you really like? What makes you feel good without anyone telling you? What do you need to be happy that doesn't depend on others? Cultivate your emotional independence. It's not about being alone, but about being okay with yourself. Being able to enjoy your own company without feeling that something or someone is missing. With every step you take in this direction, you will get closer to finally being everything you need. In the end, life is about being aware that happiness is not found on the outside, but inside you. When you stop needing others to feel complete, you realize that everything you are looking for you already have. And that, my friend, is true freedom. No matter how much it hurts, I'm going to make it very clear to you, my friend. Fulfillment does not come when you find what you were looking for, but when you realize that you already had everything inside of you. If you've made it this far, write in the comments. You don't need anyone to be happy. I invite you to subscribe, activate notifications, and comment so that YouTube recognizes that these videos are useful for people like you. This motivates us to continue creating similar content in the future. I suggest you check out the last 2 videos we recommend. I sincerely appreciate your time and support. We'll see you in our next adventure.